Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about the realization of an open-air archaeological itinerary from the Museum of Three Medieval Cemetery Areas of Valcuvia, northern Italy. Our current research project, called an open-air archaeological itinerary from the Museum of Three Medieval Cemetery Areas of Valcuvia, Lake Maggiore, northern Italy, is part of a large study planned by our research center and concerns the enhancement and promotion of the archaeological heritage of Valcuvia. The goal of the project, in general, is to give priority to the redevelopment of some archaeological sites in Valcuvia and stimulate other similar archaeological contests close by, but also for those distant to Lake Maggiore, to adopt this model of research and of the musealization of ancient cemeterial areas. In particular, our proposal is to transform three archaeological sites, Sant'Agostino in Caravate, San Biagio in Cittiglio, and Sant'Eusebio e Antonio in Azzio, still unknown to date, but which have an extraordinary historical, artistic, and archaeological potential as well as tourism. These three sites are actually under archaeological and anthropological investigation by our Center of Research, the Center of Research in Osteoarchaeology and Paleopathology of the University of Insubria. The sites present also a strong potential for thematic and territorial connection. The first one is the archaeological site of Sant'Agostino in Caravate. The archaeological site of Sant'Agostino in Caravate is located in the center of the town of Caravate and includes the small Romanesque church and the external cemetery. In 2002, the Superintendent for Archaeological Heritage of Lombardy proceeded with a systematic excavation with the aim to recover the entire cemetery area. A complex of 20 burial graves were brought to light, and the archaeological stratigraphy allow us to date the site between the 8th and 9th centuries. The tombs are still visible thanks to the musealization project of the site. Inside the burials, skeletal remains of the ancient inhabitants of Caravate were discovered. The skeletons were brought to the Laboratory of Physical Anthropology of the University of Insubria to be studied from an anthropological and paleopathological point of view. The aim of anthropological investigations was to obtain a paleodemographic profile of the site. From the first observations on human remains, we have revealed important paleopathological data. 1. A significant number of traumatic lesions, especially to the skull districts. 2. An important presence of multiple osteomas, probably associated to Gardner syndrome. Indeed, we proceeded with the chemical investigation to test the paleonutritional condition of the population, which revealed a good presence of vegetable and fish. On the initiative of our research center, and thanks to the funding obtained in 2018 and in 2019, 2 new archaeological campaigns were carried out to explore the cemetery area not yet investigated. The more remains recovered in this phase are now under investigation. Indeed, we are waiting for the result of biomolecular investigations to clarify the hypothesis of Gardner syndrome during the first phase of the project. Other archaeological excavations in the cemeterial area are planned and have just been financed in order to obtain more anthropological data, to clarify also the presence of traumas, and totally acquire the archaeological data and to restore the funerary archaeological evidences. The second one is the site of San Biagio in Cittiglio. The archaeological site of San Biagio in Cittiglio rises in the upper part of the present town. The complex consists of a small church of Castrician origin and an external cemetery. The church of San Biagio has been subjected of several archaeological investigations from 2006 to 2009 with particular attention to the building. On the initiative of our center and thanks to the funding obtained on competitive tenders from 2016 to today, archaeological investigations have been undertaken to recover the cemetery area outside the church. Several tombs and a common ossuary have been recovered. The investigations have made it possible to clarify the dating of the cemetery between the 10th and the 16th centuries and to recover a very important osteoarchaeological sample which today has about 200 individuals. The anthropological investigations conducted until now revealed interesting paleopathological fields. 1. An important presence of traumas. 2. A significant presence of arthrosis. 3. An high presence of juvenilize. Most of the osteoarchaeological sample of the common ossuary, now partially investigated, must be cleaned, studied, and restored. Indeed, the next bioarchaeological investigation of the external ossuary is planned for the next season that reveal other osteoarchaeological samples to study. Recently, for the didactic reason, we also planned the fashion reconstruction, manual and digital, of several bones of the necropolises. The third site is the crypt of Azzio. In the southwest of the ancient town of Azzio is the church dedicated to the Sant'Eusebio and Antonio of Padua, originally annexing to the Franciscan convent of the Minor Friars. It was erected in 1608 by the extension of previous church. Of interest to us is the funerary crypt where friars were originally buried according to the ritual of the double burial. On the initiative of our group, the restoration work on the osteoarchaeological sample was carried out with the aim to identify the anthropological profile of the population and to discover the funerary rituals. In particular, the crypt revealed the presence of a very singular ritual, which is that of the double burials. This ritual has been attested since the modern age and is found in several religious orders, especially in the southern Italy. The ritual provides that the corpses were deposited inside the niches following the end of the putrefacted process. The skeletal remains were moved in a second place of deposition, usually a common ossuary. According to the cultural anthropologists, this funeral act was to represent the metaphor of the soul journey to the afterlife. From the paleopathological point of view, we could only remark on the presence of arthrosis, especially to the spine. Only one case presents morphological characteristic of tuberculosis. However, due to the lack of funds, the crypt was not completely investigated under the archaeological, anthropological, and paleopathological point of view. In general, the aim of the project is to contribute to completing the anthropological and paleopathological investigations of the osteoarchaeological sample of these three sites. The study, restoration, and musealization of anthropological heritage represent important tools to activate development processes in several cultural fields. From the realization of this project, we expect to 1. conclude the analysis of human remains from archaeological sites of Sant'Agostino in Caravate, San Biagio in Cittiglio, and Sant'Eusebio and Antonio in Azzio. 2. Collaborate within the anthropological training course directly on the archaeological site. 3. Record the anthropological data in our database. 4. Restore each site, which includes the exposition of human remains inside the single churches. 5. Deep the study of human remains with radiological analysis, C14, ancient DNA. 6. Transform these archaeological sites in open-air museums. An important aim of the research is the realization of the project of a museum of anthropological assessed within archaeological sites destined to become museum sites that can be inserted into an already planned archaeological itinerary organized by team. The study of osteoarchaeological sample will guarantee the realization of archaeological itinerary, which will include also a theme of the history of population through human remains. Inside the project, people can also participate in the experience of the investigation of physical anthropology, taking part into the Bioarchaeological Day. All 3 museum sites will be included in an archaeological itinerary by the creation of 3 archaeological teams. In particular, the archaeological itinerary wants to be organized according to 3 thematic lines described below. Thematic Area 1, Christianity and rituals in medieval and post-medieval times in Valcuvia. This thematic area tells of funeral rituals in different centuries through the visit of the excavated burials and funeral items. Thematic Area 2, Christian art in Valcuvia in medieval and post-medieval times. The thematic area recounts the Christianity of the place over time through the visit of the artistic representations. Thematic Area 3, the ancient populations of Valcuvia. The thematic area leads to the knowledge of medieval and post-medieval populations of Valcuvia through the visit of the skeleton findings, analyzed, restored, and exhibit in the closed areas of each archaeological site. With archaeobiology, we have a tool in hand to spread the human experience of the populations of the past. Through the exhibition on human death, through the museum display of human remains, funerary objects, tombs, and in general the sacred funerary contest, it is possible to tell the story of our past in an original way. Furthermore, the possibility of joining under a common theme of archaeobiology and funerary archaeology 3 archaeological sites transformed into an open-air museum and indoor, if we take into consideration the churches annexed to the external cemetery areas and which also became the museums and containers of museum exhibit, especially human remains, it will allow us to create a new path, illustrating the rituals and the funerary sensibility of the medieval and post-medieval populations that lived near Lake Maggiore. This project, we will end in 2022, will offer the opportunity to stimulate the interest of other similar and neighboring realities. We are already aware of other cemetery areas, especially from the Middle Ages in the surrounding areas, that deserve an accurate archaeological and anthropological study, and why not, if possible, museum display and the subsequent inclusion within our already started archaeological itinerary. Thank you.